It's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Breaking news right now. The Senate Judiciary Committee Republicans have just now formally announced when there will be a vote on Brett Kavanaugh. It is now scheduled for Friday morning, 9:30 a.m. That's one day after this blockbuster hearing that's been scheduled for the accuser to testify. I have this right here, and it's quite clear from Chairman Grassley saying the Brett Kavanaugh nomination will be voted on, according to this schedule, on Friday morning. That is a big deal because it would suggest not a lot of time to process or fact check or follow up on whatever is learned in the Thursday hearing.
They don't care what is learned during the Thursday hearing. Hello, everybody. Tens of millions of people will be tuning in tomorrow for this charade. This charade where a prosecutor whose name we only learned last night, who has no investigation done. There is no investigation that's been conducted. No witnesses have been spoken to, deposed. No evidence has been gathered wherever there possibly could be evidence. And we're going to bring in a prosecutor to question the victim. Oh, my God. And then vote on it early in the morning the next day. This is just so, I cannot, I mean, this is just freaky unbelievable. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen the Senate do. And we've seen the Senate do some stuff. We've seen the Senate diminish Anita Hill. We've seen the Senate have a trial to remove Bill Clinton from office based on a parsing of words with regard to his answers, with regard to a consensual affair that he had when he was president. We've seen the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court come in and decorate his robes in golden, bands to make himself, look very important so that they could conduct a trial to remove President Bill Clinton with an investigation that started out as a land deal and ended up with Brett Kavanaugh questioning the president about jerking off into a trash basket. Yeah, that happened. And Ken Starr had to resign after all those years later. Ken Starr went on to be, I forget what his job, at Baylor University, and there was a sex scandal there. And he was asked to leave Baylor University, and now I believe he's the Pepperdine. But it's the same. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. It is just such an amazing thing. And one of the lawyers in these cases, because now we have a third one, Michael Avenatti, promised and delivered as usual. I'm avoiding reading this because it's really upsetting. But there is a sworn declaration under penalty of perjury that has been filed by a woman named Julie Swetnick that Michael Avenatti is representing. And her declaration is hair-raising. It is literally hair-raising. But John Clune, who is an attorney for Deborah Ramirez, who was the second woman, and she got trashed by Donald Trump so hard yesterday. Oh my God, she's got nothing. She was drunk. Yeah, so was your Supreme Court pick. I mean, this school that they went to seemed to be like a freaking frat house for wayward rich boys whose parents wanted some comfort that they were being, I don't know, molested by Jesuits. I have no idea what this is, but he's, trashing every woman that comes down the pike. And yesterday, as you know, he said, well, he was at the United Nations, for God's sake, sitting next to the president of Colombia, denying a sexual allegation against his nominee for the Supreme Court after he got laughed at by the entire world in the United Nations. This is the sickest, craziest. I've never seen an administration like this. He's spewing venom at a woman who says she was sexually assaulted by Trump's Supreme Court pick, and he still found time to get laughed at by the world. I mean, you know, can the world get any crazier? Can it get any worse? You know, I swear to God, after listening to him yesterday, part of me was kind of like thinking if Brett Kavanaugh somehow withdrew or doesn't make the cut, he'll nominate Bill Cosby. And McConnell will push him through. He'll schedule a vote. So Michael Avenatti comes forward with this declaration, this sworn declaration by this woman named Julie Swetnick. Her story is hair-raising. That's all I can say. Here's what it says. This is really hard, okay? I, Julie Swetnick, declare as follows. My name is Julie Swetnick. I am a resident of Washington, D.C. I fully understand the seriousness of the statements contained within this declaration. I have personal knowledge of the information stated herein, and if called to testify to the same, would and could do so. I am a graduate of Gaithersburg High School in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I presently hold the following active clearances associated with working within the federal government: Public Trust, U.S. Department of Treasury, DOT, U.S. Mint, Internal Revenue Service. I have also previously held the following inactive clearances: Secret, U.S. Department of State, U.S. Department of Justice, and Public Trust, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection. My prior employment includes working with Vietnam War Commemoration, Joint Services Providers, U.S. Department of Defense in Arlington, Virginia, U.S. Mint, U.S. Department of Treasury, U.S. Internal Revenue Service, U.S. Department of Treasury, Government Affairs and Communications Department, D.C. Department of General Services, Government of the District of Columbia. Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Department of State. I was also one of the first 100 women in the world to achieve a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineering certificate. Oh, I need your help, Julie. Anyway, here are her statements of fact. I first met Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh in approximately 1980-81. I was introduced to them at a house party that I attended in the Washington, D.C. area. I observed Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh as extremely close friends during the 1980s when I knew them and interacted with them. I would describe them as joined at the hip. I consistently saw them together in many social settings. There is no question in my mind that Mark Judge has significant information concerning the conduct of Brett Kavanaugh during the 1980s, especially as it relates to his actions toward women. Following the first introduction, I attended well over 10 house parties in the Washington, D.C. area during the years 1981 to 83, where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were present. These parties were a common occurrence in the area and occurred nearly every weekend during the school year. On numerous occasions at these parties, I witnessed Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh drink excessively and engage in highly inappropriate conduct, including being overly aggressive with girls and not taking no for an answer. This conduct included the fondling and grabbing of girls without their consent. I observed Brett Kavanaugh drink excessively at many of these parties and engage in abusive and physically aggressive behavior toward girls, including pressing girls against him without their consent, grinding against girls, and attempting to remove or shift girls' clothing to expose body parts. You know, he would lift their shirts. I likewise observed him to be verbally abusive towards girls by making crude sexual comments to them that were designed to demean, humiliate, and embarrass them. I often witnessed Brett Kavanaugh speak in a demeaning manner about girls in general, as well as specific girls by name. I also witnessed Brett Kavanaugh behave as a, quote, mean drunk on many occasions at these parties. I have been told by other women that this conduct also occurred during the summer months in Ocean City, Maryland, on numerous occasions. I also witnessed such conduct on one occasion in Ocean City, Maryland during Beach Week. That's important. Remember Beach Week. I have reviewed Brett Kavanaugh's recent claims on Fox News regarding his alleged innocence during his high school years and lack of sexual activity. This claim is absolutely false and a lie. I witnessed Brett Kavanaugh consistently engage in excessive drinking and inappropriate contact of a sexual nature with women during the 1980s. During the years 1981-82, I became aware of efforts by Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh, and others to spike the punch at house parties I attended with drugs and or grain alcohol, so as to cause girls to lose their inhibitions and their ability to say no. This caused me to make an effort to purposely avoid the punch at these parties. I witnessed efforts by Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh, and others to target particular girls so they could be taken advantage of. It was usually a girl that was especially vulnerable because she was alone at the party or shy. I also witnessed efforts by Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh, and others to cause girls to become inebriated and disoriented so they could then be gang raped in a side room or a bedroom by a train of numerous boys. I have a firm recollection of seeing boys lined up outside rooms at many of these parties waiting for their turn with a girl inside the room. These boys included Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh. In approximately 1982, I became the victim of one of these gang or train rapes where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were present. Shortly after the incident, I shared what transpired with at least two other people. During the incident, I was incapacitated without my consent and unable to fight off the boys raping me. I believe I was drugged using Quaaludes or something similar placed in what I was drinking. I'm aware of other witnesses that can attest to the truthfulness of each of the statements above. I declare under penalty of perjury and under laws of the United States of America that the foregoing is true and correct. I have executed this declaration on September 25th, 2018. So this thing, this choir boy, he might have missed a few choir practices because the third accuser with witnesses, and she's swearing under penalty of perjury, that not only did she witness trains of boys and spiking of punch with what she believes to be Quaaludes, which, by the way, were, like I told you, they were the ultimate aphrodisiac. Women would become, anybody who took them, would become completely and totally incapacitated and without any inhibitions. But did anybody doubt that this would happen? The universe mandated this. Trump made it all but inevitable yesterday. Kavanaugh was begging for it when he said he was a virgin in high school, and McConnell saw it coming. And they all richly deserve this. And yet they're going to proceed tomorrow with no investigation at all and a prosecutor questioning a victim. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.